Good evening and welcome to our show, Going Public. I'm Renee Fonseca, and joining us tonight are the NYCP Community Liaison for the Terrebonne Parish School District, Angel Black, and students Alex Dardar, Julia Knockham, and Bentley Wallace. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us for the show tonight. How are you feeling, guys?
Good.
Good?
Good.
All right, I'm going to ask Miss Angel a few questions first, and then I'll get down to asking you some questions about the program as well. First up, Miss Angel, what programs are available for our Native American students in the Terrebonne Parish School District?
Well, since the 1970s, we've had the Indian Education Program, which is a federally funded program and we get funding based on the number of students we have enrolled. Right now, we have 1,466 students enrolled in that program. Mr. Kirby Verrett is the program coordinator, and Ms. Caitlin Billiot is the resource specialist for that program. So what the program provides, the bulk of it is that we provide 8 full-time paraprofessionals at the schools that have the highest number of Native American children in the parish. Currently, those schools are Acadian, Berg, Dularge, Grand Caillou Elementary, Grand Caillou Middle, Montague Elementary, Montague Middle, and Upper Little Caillou Elementary. Also, the program will provide school supplies to students who are in need of school supplies. We provide cultural books to all of our enrolled students, mostly in well, I say all, more of the younger age students, like your elementary and middle school students would receive age-appropriate cultural books. We offer Native American presentations during November is Native American Month, so we're doing presentations at this time. That is open to every principal at every elementary and middle school in the district. So we have done so far presentations for Grand Caillou Middle and Grand Caillou Elementary, and we have several schools lined up for next week. Those presentations, we have crafters and presenters that come in. Mr. Kirby teaches them Indian words. He talks to them about Native American cooking, housing, food, Native American calendar. We teach them about music and dancing. Also, our crafters will display items such as basket weaving and garfish scales. We show them animal skins and pelts. We beading items with garfish scales like jewelry or other items. We also, the main thing is to teach the students about Native American culture, namely local Native American culture, because there are over 600 Indian tribes in the United States and over 12 just in the state of Louisiana. So what we try to concentrate on is teaching them a little bit about the overall Native American culture, but specifically the culture here, because there are 4 Native American tribes just in our parish. So we try to teach them mostly what's going on there. We also have a Native American graduation ceremony every year. This year we are expecting to have 78 graduates from the program. So we are hoping to have a traditional ceremony for them at the end of this year, and there's a picture of what one has looked like in the past. The last 2 have been a little different due to COVID regulations, but we're hoping to have something more similar to what you see in the picture this coming May for the students. The other program in the parish is the NYCP program, and that's the Native Youth Community Project, which is also a federally funded program. Now that one is more concentrated on college and career readiness. So here, this was a summer camp that we did this past summer. We do focus on sort of the STEM activities, that science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And so that was a project they were doing where the students were given random items where they had to see who could make something float, and they had to place pennies in it until the item sank. So that was a really fun activity for the students. We've also taken them on field trips in the past to different colleges. We've taken them to Nichols, UL, LSU, Ellie Fletcher, and then taken them to, there's the picture of the group we took to Ellie Fletcher, which was really, really cool. We've taken them to places such as K&B Machine Shop. We've taken them to an oil rig, different things like that, just to help them decide on what they want to do for their future and let them know the different opportunities that are available in this area and really across the nation, wherever they would like to go.
It sounds like you guys stay pretty busy with the Native American students.
We certainly do.
And how can a parent enroll their student in the Native American program?
So to be enrolled in the program, it's required that either the student any one of their parents or any 4 of their biological grandparents be enrolled in a Native American tribe. That tribe can either be federally or state recognized. The form that we use is called a 506 form, which is issued by the United States government. And it's a basic form. It asks for name, address, the grade of the student, what school the student goes to. The most important thing on that form is the parent's signature. If we have the parent's signature, we could kind of do some research and figure out the rest, because unfortunately a lot of people in the parish, they might not even know what tribe they're in, but with some help from them, we can go ahead and help them identify that so that we can get the children enrolled. So Ms. Caitlin Billiot, the resource specialist, would handle that. The way we get the forms, our biggest help is our paraprofessionals that are located in the schools. They're able to help us identify what students might qualify for the program, get those 506 forms home to the parents, and then back to us so that we can get them enrolled. In addition, Ms. Caitlin, part of her job is to identify other students in the parish who might qualify and get the 506 forms to them. Now, the way we basically identify is whatever the parent, when they enroll the child in the district, if they select Native American as either their primary or secondary race, that helps us to identify what students might qualify, and we can go ahead and get the 506 form to them. And that's basically how we get them enrolled.
And if a parent has any questions, can they reach out to Miss Caitlin? And do you have a contact number for her?
Absolutely. Caitlin Billiot, she's located at the Federal Building. Her phone number is 985-879-6400, and her extension there is 377. But if they just call the federal department and ask for Caitlin, because there's also a Caitlin, so they have to be very careful, but if she asks for Caitlin, they will get to her and she can give them the information and get the form to the parent. You know, we send it through to the homeroom teachers. Sometimes they get misplaced or lost and things like that, but the parent could always pick up the form from her directly from federal, or she can mail it to their house. Whatever is convenient for the parent, we want to make it as easy as possible for them to get that child enrolled.
All right, thank you for that information.
You're welcome.
Now, I know you talked about some of the activities and places that you guys go. Can you explain the importance of teaching the younger generation about their heritage?
Yes. Basically, we are at a risk of losing our heritage if things are not taught and, you know, brought on from elders to the children's parents and down to the children. It's really important for us to carry on those traditions and storytelling and showing and teaching the children. So we do a few camps. The NYCP program did an awesome job of having summer camps where they brought in presenters like I talked about earlier for our Native American presentations, where they'll teach them basket weaving, or they'll teach them how to make things with garfish scales. So it's really, really important for us to teach that local Native American culture. And I can give some examples. You know, there are a lot of stereotypes about Native Americans. Like in our Native American presentation, one thing we ask the students is, you know, where do Native Americans or Indians live? A lot of times they come out teepees, right? Native Americans live in teepees. Well, down here we didn't live in teepees. We lived in houses with palmetto roofs and walls made of a moss and clay mixture. So it's very different. Native Americans that lived in teepees were more the western region because they were nomadic. They were constantly looking for food and shelter and things like that. They were chasing the buffalo. They needed to move around. So the teepee, it was very easy to assemble and take down on a regular basis. We're down here in this area, it wasn't necessary for us to do that. So we had more of a permanent home fixture because around here, they trapped, they fished, they caught crabs, they caught shrimp. They did these types of things to sustain themselves. So it was very different housing. Like I said, we want to teach them not only about the local culture, but about other tribes as well. And each tribe has its own unique history and culture. Another example, so I recently learned at my age that women are really not supposed to touch the Native American drum or the drumstick. You know, there's different things like that. Whereas there are some very famous brothers who played lacrosse in college, and they were from a tribe in New York, and they played lacrosse. They were brought up playing lacrosse. They were very good at it. And they told a story, you know, women are not supposed to touch a lacrosse stick. And so it was very important for them to say, you know, my mom couldn't even take it out of the vehicle for me because I had to be the one to do it. So there's just these really cool things about every different tribe. And so we want to bring a little bit of tribes from different nations. We'll have guest speakers come down from different tribes or Native Americans who grew up on reservations, which is a whole different thing that we don't have reservations down here. So we want to teach them about all those different things from across the nation, but most important, teach them about our local Native American culture and how to use the resources around them. You know, I talked about seafood, talked about garfish. The garfish, at one time, it was a source of food where you don't really hear people eating garfish too much anymore, but it was able to be smoked so they could save it and they could use it later. But also the scales. I said earlier we make jewelry now. We teach our kids crafts and how to make jewelry or different things out of garfish scales. But at one time it was also used for the point of, like, for a bow and arrow or a small spear, because we don't have rock down here. Other tribes could use rock to make a small arrowhead. We didn't have that. But a garfish scale is in the shape, you know, it's very pointy. So it's easy to stick it on the end of something and use it in a bow and arrow to kill small game, or I don't know. It's very interesting to learn everything.
Definitely sounds interesting. How has your feedback been from parents in the community with these cultural activities that you guys are doing?
We've had amazing feedback from the parents. The parents, you know, they're just as eager to learn about these things as their children are, and the children are soaking it up. But, you know, at one time it was thought, you know, it was a negative thing to be a Native American, and now we're back to the point where we can really get into it and it's a positive thing again. So it's a great time for parents and children to learn.
First up, I have Alex Dardar, who is a 6th grade Montague Middle student. Thank you, Alex, for joining us tonight. In front of you, you have a few items that you have brought with you today. Would you like to go ahead and show us some of those items and explain what you have done to make them?
Sure. I built this dance shield so that I built this dance shield with deer skin and
So what's on it? Is that your hand?
print.
And what does it represent?
Is it your hand? Good. Okay, so it represents you maybe, right? Good job. And then you have a headdress. You want to show her the headdress?
You want to go ahead and put the headdress on and show me how it's worn?
Good job.
I like the headdress. And is that something you also created? And how did you make that? What is it made out of?
It's made out of feathers.
Okay.
And
Leather.
this leather.
And what does that represent to you?
How they had Native American, what they, I don't know.
That's okay. What else are you wearing? I see you have something around your neck. Is that something also that you made at one of the camps? And what is that? Can you explain to me what that is?
This is a choker that we made for jewelry.
You made for jewelry? And you can keep going. Okay. Why do you think it's important to learn about your Native American heritage or your culture? Do you think it's important for you to know that and other students?
Yeah, so that whenever I get older and I want to teach the younger ones, that it could keep on going and not just stop, so that more and more people know about it.
Oh, I agree. So what else would you like to learn about your Native American heritage?
Nothing.
Nothing? You think you know a good bit already?
Yeah.
And whenever you go to these camps, what have you enjoyed the most?
Everything.
You enjoy it all? Well, good deal. Also with us tonight is Julian Knockhand. Julian is a 3rd grader from Berg Elementary. Thank you, Julian, for joining us, and I see that you have some goodies in front of you also. Would you like to show us what you've made?
I made this headdress that is made out of leather and feathers.
You want to show it? You want to put it on and show us what it looks like on you as well?
All right.
Oh, it's okay. That's okay. And then also, what else do you have in front of you?
I have my oyster cross.
Your oyster cross. You want to hold it up and show everyone what it looks like? That is really cool. Did you make that out of oyster shells?
Yes.
Yes. And what does that represent to you?
Our ancestors.
Okay. And why do you think it is important to learn about your Native American heritage?
Because so that we can learn more about Native Americans.
And then what else do you want to learn more about it? Would you like to learn anything else or do any other activities?
No.
No? So what have you enjoyed the most with the Native American programs and presentations?
The boat ride.
Oh, you took a boat ride. And where did that boat ride go?
All the way to the little a lot of cheese place that I don't know what it's called.
And whenever you took that boat ride, did you see lots of seafood or what did you learn? Did you learn about some of the places?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds fun. Also with us tonight is Bentley Wallace, who is a 6th grader also at Montague Middle. Thank you, Bentley, for coming on the show. And it looks like you have some items with you as well that you have made. Can you please show us what you have made?
So we got the drum, and it was a very important part of their instruments, and it's made from a wood frame, and they made it from elk and buffalo hide, and they use wood on here and some leather. And the dream catchers, they use this to stop any bad thoughts or any bad dreams from haunting them.
Ooh, so you made some cool things. Did you learn how to play the drum also?
Not really.
Not really. Is that something you would like to do in the future?
Yeah.
So why do you think it is important to learn about your Native American heritage?
So we could learn about how the ways they survived and what they did for fun and all.
And then what else would you like to learn about your Native American culture?
More about their clothing and what it represented, and more of their hunting.
And what has been the funnest part for you?
Probably building the stuff, making all of it.
So you enjoy the crafting and learning how they've done things in the past?
Yes, ma'am.
Besides those items in front of you, have you built any other things that are related to your heritage?
Yes, ma'am. We built some chokers, and I also built one of the headdresses.
So you also done those as well. That sounds like y'all do a good bit of things, and it sounds really neat.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to go ahead and go back to Miss Angel with a few questions. Over the last few years, we were affected by COVID, and then came Hurricane Ida. How has your program been affected by both of these things?
We were tremendously affected. Basically, when COVID happened in March 2 years ago, when we were all sent home, we had a parent meeting scheduled for a week after that. So things changed a little bit for us. We weren't able to have that meeting, and then our Native American graduation ceremony that year was completely different. We had to quickly organize a drive-through ceremony, print the certificates for the kids, and try to get as many of them to come as possible. But of course, the turnout, it was very different. So we allowed some of them to come in and get their certificates afterwards, even after if they weren't able to make it to the drive-through. But it just wasn't that big recognition like the graduation programs that we've had in the past. And then all of last year, it was very different as well. We switched to virtual parent meetings because we couldn't have large groups. We did a drive-through for our school supply distribution, and at most of our meetings, we would have a turnout of about 50 parents or more, and at the virtual presentations, we maybe had 6 to 8. So it was a huge damper on us getting information to our parents and things like that, because they were used to coming in person, and we just weren't able to do that. So it's getting a little bit better. We do have a meeting scheduled for next Thursday. It is virtual again, so we hope to have a better turnout than what we had last year. But we're really excited about having those in-person meetings again, just as soon as we are able to do that. Hurricane Ida let's see, that has affected just all of our communities, because basically your Native American communities are in the lower bayou regions. So I know Pontchartrain, Dularge, the End of Montague, of course Cocodrie, but we don't really have too many of our Native American tribal members down there. But those areas were just devastated. So many of our tribal members have lost their homes completely or had severe damage to their homes. A lot of them are moving. We've lost, I know, over 50 of our enrolled students in the Indian education program just since the hurricane hit. And like I said earlier, our funding is based on numbers. So if we don't somehow get those kids back into the area, it could be, a huge, I mean, we don't know if I don't know how the budget would have to change because of that. Another trend we're seeing is as these storms continue to hit and things keep happening to the lower bayou regions, some of the students are moving more north. So we've seen a trend the last few years where Coteau Bayou Blue and HL, their numbers are getting higher, so we don't know if a para may have to move schools next year, depending on where all these students end up once they're settled. Also with COVID, I talked about our presentations. Last year we started with virtual presentations. We did a recorded session. This year we're trying to do live sessions where we send a link via Google Meet for their teachers to log in and have more interaction. But it's just not the same as being in person, going to the school, letting the students meet the presenters in person and see the crafts that they're bringing. It's very, very different. So we're hoping that the COVID regulations ease up and we're able to get back into the schools very, very soon.
And right quick, do you have any advice to our younger students who may want to be involved in our cultural camps?
Yes, absolutely. So all of our camps are completely free. So if they're interested in some type of summer camp or something, reach out to Caitlin Billiot, the resource specialist, or to me, and we'll get that information to them very quickly and try to get them in.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. I also want to thank Alex, Julian, and Bentley for coming on the show and showing us their items as well. Thank you guys for coming. And I would like to thank you, our viewers, for watching. Don't forget to join us every Tuesday on Going Public. Good night.